Hi, I thought I would do a fun one verse this video. I'm going to pull something actually from lost scriptures. This should be kind of fun. It's a very fragmentary. It's called the Gospel of the Egyptians, but it's not really from the Egyptians. If you're not familiar with it, well, in fact, we don't even have the Gospel. It doesn't exist anymore. What we have is some notes from Clement of Alexandria that references it. And so there's just a few right here. And most of these notes are his. I'm not going to read. There's just a few verses in here, a couple of lines that are going to be very fun to go through. They're going to look familiar, and they're going to help us learn to turn these into our psyche a lot more. My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the channel. And yeah, these are going to play out in the psyche. I'm using, this is the Bart D. Ehrman version, Lost Christianities. I'm sure you can find that work from Clement elsewhere. That's just copied into here. And you will recognize these as Jesus verses. They are sourced from Jesus. And when you look at them, well, I can see that they are, even though it doesn't come from the gospel, I can see what Clement put in there is accurate because it fits with other material that comes from Jesus. So let's start right off the bat. I'll say again that I am not concerned with the historicity of this material or any material. I don't. When people are concerned with the historical accuracy of documentation, they're looking to prove the supernatural layer. When you turn it inward, you're looking to decode every possible thing because you want, you might decode or interpret 10 different things and you don't get anything different out of them, but then you find somewhere else something that has another step in it or something like that. So you really want to be open to everything, and it doesn't matter who's first. I'm looking for the template and what is in there. That's what I want. I'm seeking to interpret everything that can play out in the human psyche. I wish to find the process the ancients have identified for us. So this is very highly fragmentary. And so here's the first one. When Salome asked, "How long will death prevail?" And the Lord replied, "For as long as you women bear children." And number 2, the Savior said, "I have come to destroy the works of the female." And 3, this note, when the Word made a reasonable disclosure concerning the consumption of all things Salome asked. That was a note from Clement. This is what is said, "How long will people continue to die?" And the Lord replied, "For as long as the women bear children." So he's making notes on that interesting thing. And he's got some comments that he makes on it that he's not playing them out in the psyche, so I'm not going to go there with his work. 4, Salome spoke these words, "Then I have done well not to bear children." The Lord replied, "Eat every herb, but not the one that is bitter." And then 5, Salome asked when the thing she had asked about would become known. The Lord replied, "When you trample on the shameful garment, and when the two have become one, and the male with the female is neither male nor female." If you know the Gospel of Thomas, that should sound familiar there. That's it. That's all the work that there is right here. So let's go ahead and get started on it. Right back to the very first one here. So here we have Salome, female. "How long will death prevail?" And the Lord replied, "For as long as you women bear children." And the Savior said, "I have come to destroy the works of the female." Now let's stop for a second and discuss something. Every bit of this plays out from the conscious inward. That's where this story belongs. When we place it there and we make those, all of the nouns, the nouns and the verbs in here are analogous to something that we must do in the psyche and where they place. And there's a hierarchy in there as well. Let's play with that and see what that looks like. The Lord is you when you are in your state of going to heal yourself. It is your higher being, not the part of you that is your consciousness that was not in control. This is the part of you later on that is saying, "I'm coming in to heal now. I'm going in to take care of things." And Salome is your subconscious. That is our female part. How long will death prevail? This is not physical death. This is spiritual death. It plays out in the psyche. For as long as you women bear children. What are children in this analogous format? The women is the subconscious, and what they are bearing are all of the the things that we hold inside of us that act out, or the things that are the way we live life before we're aware of it. We're just going on autopilot, responding to the world. And whatever is inside of us is what is responding. So as long as we are living in a manner that our subconscious characteristics, fears, hurts, pain, shame, grasping, all of that is acting out, spiritual death is going to be there. The Savior said, I've come to destroy the works of the female. That is us going in to say, I'm going to get rid of all of those things now that I'm holding on to that is creating my life to experience that spiritual death. I want to have a rebirth. I want to have an awakening. If we move on then to 3, when the Word made a reasonable disclosure concerning the consumption of all things, Salome asked. Now that was a note made by Clement. So there is the Word. The Word is something that is, this is when we decide something, right? This is the work we're doing right now. When we're named something, we've given it a word. We've given it, I exist free of shame until something happens that creates shame in me. I have now named shame, and I have become a part, and have made it a part of me. When the Word made reasonable disclosure concerning the consumption of all things, spiritual consumption. This is, we're taking in everything, but this is not beneficial. We're taking in the physical things in life. Salome asked, how long will people continue to die? The Lord replied, for as long as women bear children. So this one really teaches the same as the first one and the second one, or the first one primarily, but it has that addition in there that the Word and the disclosure concerning the consumption of all things. And we know what spiritual consuming, this is just taking everything in life, which is not good. We need to minimize what we take in, or we get inundated with life. We move on to 4. Salome spoke these words, then I have done well not to bear children. What do we got right here? Yeah, I'm pure of those things. I don't have it inside of me. Not bearing children is not bearing those characteristics. They could be analogous in other teachings, or even from the same teacher. They could be weeds in the garden. They could be skeletons in your closet. They could be demons that possess you. All of those would be analogous to the same thing right here. Bearing children in this case is not a good thing, because those are that's your subconscious acting out. When you are bearing children, that means something inside of you is acting out. You are not in your higher state observing things. You're bearing children, and that's not good. The Lord replied, eat every herb, but not the one that is bitter. See what's happening now? What are we consuming? We eat the herbs, the stuff that is good, the stuff that's flavorful, the stuff that helps make other things palatable, but not the one that is bitter. So we don't consume the things that are not good for us emotionally, spiritually. I will tell you that this is going to directly align with the idea that in the Garden of Eden, first sin, when Eve partakes of, when the subconscious partakes of the fruit of the good and evil, the bad consumption right there. Same story. Then we move on to 5. Salome asked when the things she had asked about would become known. Salome asked when the things that I have asked about are going to be known. We don't have all of, this is all the material we have from it. But the reply is very, very fun. When you trample on the shameful garment, and when the two have become one, and the male with the female is neither male nor female. Okay, this is another good one for, Rosetta Stone kind of work right here. We got a couple of things going on. When you trample on the shameful garment, and when the two have become one, and the male with the female is neither male nor female. So we got 3 things right there that if we can identify what one of them is, we can probably identify what all 3 of them are. So there's 3 different analogs carrying the same teaching right here in one lump. When you trample on the shameful garment. Okay, so let's go to the Gospel of Thomas. I'm going to grab that one initially. And this is verse number 37. His disciples said, when will you become revealed to us, and when shall we see you? So perhaps that's what Salome asked. Jesus said, when you disrobe without being ashamed, and take up your garments and place them under your feet like little children, and tread on them, then you will see the Son of the Living One, and you will not be afraid. Okay, those play out again inside. The disciples are our characteristics inside of us that are hurt. We don't want these parts of us anymore. When do we see? When are we going to take care of things? Now, in my continued analysis, what I find that the disciples are is each name is a characteristic, loyalty, honesty, sense of balance, things like that. And all of those are characteristics that we need to have And that's the part of us that wants our issues resolved. There's a part of us that acts out, and then there's a part of us later that regrets and goes, oh my God, why do I do that? Those are the disciples right there, the ones saying, my God, would you please resolve this? When are we going to have this life managed? And Jesus, the Christ, that's what they want to see. When are you in charge instead of these in charge? And Jesus says, when you disrobe without being ashamed. So in this case, being robed means covering up something spiritually. If you have nothing to hide, you are naked spiritually. If you can say anything about your life and there's nothing at all that you have hidden, you have no robes on. If, however, there is something inside of you that's like, this is never getting out, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm going to keep this to myself. I don't like this. I'm ashamed. All of those things right there are garments. Metaphorically. Those are analogs being held to hold the idea that you're covering yourself with something, and in this case, shame. You take up the garments and place them under your feet, which means you are stripping them off and putting them underneath you. You're going to elevate off of them. You're going to put them between the ground and you, like little children. Little children have not yet developed. Enter into the kingdom of heaven within as a child and tread on them. Yeah, you got them under your feet. Then you will see the Son of the living one, and you will not be afraid. You will lose all of your fears, and you'll be in charge of your life. There's a lot of material that is left out of this teaching right here, these short blocks right here. So what I'm going to say is that what we're specifically looking to address, what they're not saying here, but what we know to do, is that we've had a life experience or series of life experience or duration of life experiences, which has caused our thinking and our emotions to become a certain way. And that once that happens, our life emerges from that platform while we're unaware of it, and it continues to cycle in some way that we're not in charge of. And that it is because of these, what they're referring to as children, giving birth to children in this teaching right here is that very idea that there are unresolved issues left in our minds that are acting out again. So it's not just a matter of saying they need to be resolved, we need to let go of the past. That's true, but then why, what, how does that work? You can say that, but it doesn't work. It's because we have memories inside that need to be looked at, examined, addressed, brought into the open. That's a little off track, but that's what, in a nutshell, in a larger scope of the teaching that they're getting at as far as healing. Okay, let's get back into the verses again. So I jump back to the Gospel of the Egyptians where we left off, where we deviated. When you trample on the shameful garments. We went and covered that one. And now we move on to the next one, when the two have become one. I'm not going to look that up. We know that one in probably all the canonical Gospels plus in the Gospel of Thomas. And Jesus' works, that's known. The two that become one, that is ourself when we become divided, our conscious and our subconscious making decisions to where we are now acting out sometimes in ways that are not to our choosing. We're not really ultimately in charge of our lives, although we think we are. We think we're acting out. At some point, if we're the kind of person that gets to a point that we realize I'm simply responding to my programming and I want to quit that and control my own programming, then, well, yeah, that's in a nutshell what's happening. The two is where we're not functioning in concert, where we have regrets, or we are not happy. We're not living in the moment. We're not living in nirvana or the kingdom of heaven within, which is the goal of all of the teachings. All bring us to a mental place of being okay. When the two become one, is that it right there? We start out as one, then we become divided, and now we have to become one again. That means getting rid of the things that separate our conscious and our subconscious, the walls, the fears, the shame. When the two become one. So if we trample on a shameful garment, we're going to make the two into one. And if we make the two into one, that means combining those two and getting rid of everything. Male and a female, conscious, subconscious. The split there again is neither male nor female. When we're functioning we're still male and female. Physically, we still have those roles. So let's be careful we don't get offended by these. These mean that our conscious and our subconscious conflict back and forth. That they're not in concert. They're not married. They're not combined. They're not one. They're not married in the wedding chamber. These all three right here are teaching us the same thing, that we need to, become one. See that? Okay, I want to jump to something real quickly here over in Genesis. In the interest of keeping this short as possible, I'm just going to share the screen right here with this one. And there we go. This is Genesis. We've already had the creation stories and we've had the sin, and now we have punishment happening. And this is where I'm going to say the story is really good at God of the gaps. Okay, it took something like women give pain or have pain when they give birth. It's painful. So they say, well, God commanded that to be so. You just claim what's already there. This has a different meaning. You could look at it outward and say, well, that's why it happened. It would normally not be painful, I guess. Well, it's a big head coming out of that pelvis down there. I think it would be painful no matter what. And I'm a man. I don't even have the right to talk about it. I'm just trying to make a video here. What I'm trying to do is point out something here, though, that this works the same way as the other one. These play out in the psyche. The woman is the subconscious, each one of our soul, our spirit. We have to interact with it, so I call it subconscious. That allows us to know that we're using thought to work with it and to manipulate convictions. We use thinking to do that. That's our tool. I will greatly increase your pangs in childbearing. What did we just cover? Childbearing. We're giving things out. It's painful for us to have these experiences that come out. We have just sinned. We have just learned about the knowledge of good and evil. We have now begun to experience life while we're asleep. We're not paying attention. We're having normal life experiences that one day we're going to wake up to, but we're not at this point. At this point, we're being cast out of the happiness, and you're going to go live life. Your rape, your molestation, the lack, the want, the desire, the pain, the hurt, all of those things are going to become a part of you, and those are going to be the painful things that emerge when you continue to for them to emerge. The man was punished. This is the consciousness. Since you sinned, you're living on the earth, thorns and thistles. We are producing what from our garden? We're eating of the field, and thorns and thistles is what it's bringing forth for us, our toil. It's not good fruit from our garden. See that? All right, that last little bit from Genesis was just a little bonus. I threw that on the end because I'm doing some work with that, and I just saw the parallels there and wanted to throw that in. Again, reiterating how it plays out in the psyche that much, to that degree, every bit of it. Any questions, ask below, comments, and hope you enjoyed the video. Love one another. I'll see you on the next one.